Hey everybody, welcome to my fourth episode of How to Play Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon by Awakened Realms. In this episode, we're going to be going over combat and diplomacy encounters. This has been something that's been requested by a lot of people, so I wanted to get this out as fast as I can. Now, if you notice, we are going to be using Ailey. This is the character I'm currently using in my personal playthrough of the game. And the reason I chose to do her character is because I'm just a little more familiar with her combat cards and her diplomacy cards, and I feel like she has a little bit of everything. So that way I can kind of cover all the questions that are usually asked when it comes to combat and diplomacy. So just a quick overview. When it comes to combat and diplomacy encounters, your attributes are the biggest thing you need to know when it comes to it. So just as a little overview, and I'll go over this again as we go through the encounters. My character currently has 1 courage, 2 practicality, 0 aggression, 2 empathy, 1 caution, 0 spirituality. And I'll be bringing this board back just to go over a couple things as well when needed. So, why don't we start with our combat? Yeah, let's go over combat. So, these are a couple different types of encounters we can that happen during the game. And I just kind of wanted to go over them with you real quick. Once again, apologies if you find this to be spoilery, but I feel like this is the best way for you guys to learn how to play the game. So, these are a couple different encounters we can have in the game. This guy right here, I just wanted to show off. This is a gray encounter, so this is usually like the people of Avalon. This guy's a grave robber. And the thing I really wanted to point out to you was that gray encounters, when you defeat them, usually you will receive wealth and an item. Knowing what you get after the encounter is pretty important, because then you can kind of plan things. Sorry, I wish this would focus just a little bit better. There we go. But usually when you fight a gray encounter, you usually get wealth and items. Let's see, and that's a pretty typical encounter you'll have. It is a level 2 encounter later in the game, so it's going to be a little more difficult, but that's just one thing I wanted to point out to you guys. This is actually a special card. This is a Guardian. See right here. Get that to line up. Anyways, so if you see right here, it does say Guardian. Right here. Sorry, I really wish this would just... There we go. So if you draw an encounter card and it says Guardian on it, that means it's going to be one of those enemies that stays on the map, that walks around the map, and usually it means they are quite difficult. So just be careful if you see this Guardian encounter attribute right here. Okay. This is also an encounter you can draw in the game. These aren't battle encounters. Basically, you draw it, read what it says down at the bottom, do what it says. These are miracles, to be honest. When you're struggling, when you're almost dead, and you draw one of these for one of your encounters, you feel pretty dang good about yourself. So, let's see. Actually, I think there was... Oh, I left one up here. This is another encounter. This is a purple encounter. The purple encounters usually are full of kind of weird creatures, spirits, apparitions, things like that. I just wanted to note that when you fight purple encounters, you generally will loot magic. So if you're running out, if you're desperate for some magic to activate a menhir or to help you out in other circumstances, look for a purple encounter and that will help you. So the last kind of main encounter we go through is this is a green encounter. Green encounters usually loot you food. So if you're running out of food, look for green encounters and they will help you. And this is actually the card we are going to use in our demonstration. So when you when you draw an encounter, you want to place it to the far left of a nice clear state, and you're going to be building your combat sequence to the right in this direction. The other thing you want to really keep track of is, okay, so first you get the name of the encounter. This is a royal elk that we're going to be trying to defeat. This number right here is its health, and the goal of us is to get either equal to that health or above that health in terms of damage. We want to do 6 damage to this royal elk in order to defeat it, or more. This little banner up here denotes the difficulty of the encounter. This is a 1-level encounter, so it's not too tough. A little bit of flavor text. This is where the attributes will be listed. And this is pretty important. As soon as you draw an encounter, you want to check here to see how it's going to affect your combat. So let's let me pull out my little the thing I forgot to pull out a moment ago. Let's see, I think, yeah, okay. So traits are kind of hard to keep track of just because there's so many of them. So make sure you keep your combat and diplomacy icon help card nearby. So if you notice, the Royal Elk has the attribute of fast. So what that means is players can play a maximum of 2 combat cards per activation. So that means that we're going to be limited to how many cards we are able to play in this sequence. So just a good thing to keep in mind. Just to kind of give you more quick on the overview on it. Down here is, I can't remember what it's officially called, but this table down here is basically going to determine how this encounter reacts to us damaging it. So depending on how much damage we do to this elk is going to determine how much damage it does back to us. So for example, if we attack it and end up doing and it has 2 damage on it at the end of our attack, it's going to do 2 damage back to us. If we damage it again and it ends up with 3 or 4 damage, it's going to do 2 damage to us. And my one complaint about this game is they use the word lose instead of heal. What this means when it says lose 1 red cube, that means that the elk is going to lose 1 damage off of him. It's going to heal by 1. And then if we do 5 damage if we attack it again, end up with 5 damage on it, it is going to run away, meaning that we don't actually get this reward or the loot of 2 food. So the opportunity cost right here, this is what happens if we either don't play cards to try and defeat it, or we decide to run away from the encounter. So, and once again, the loot down here is what you receive when you win. So then this comes the important part. So these attributes on the side of this combat card are the same attributes that are on our character board. And basically think about it like this. When we pay, well, here, let me start the combat sequence and it'll make a little more sense. It's kind of difficult to explain it in exact words. So you draw your encounter, you place it down, make sure you check for the attributes, the attributes here to determine how it's going to affect your combat. Take your combat deck, make sure you give it a good shuffle, draw 3 cards. Now, an important note, let's say you draw 3 cards and you're just like, man, I really don't like any of these cards, they don't really help me out. You can always discard those 3, draw 2, shuffle all this back into your deck, and then you'll have 2 cards to start. And you can do that once again if you really don't like those 2 cards. You can put those down, draw 1 card, then shuffle all the cards back together, and you'll start with 1 card. So, just a good thing to keep in mind. But for now, I do have this kind of lined up too, so I can demonstrate how things work. So let's see if I can remember exactly how I wanted to do this. I think I wanted to go like this, and then we'd end on this. Yeah, okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play our Crippling Strike card. Now the way it works is when you place this card down, you're going to check and see what connections are made between the elks. It's sort of like this is the cost and this is the reward for if you line it up. So for example, since we have our practicality, the image of the snake lined up with the 1 damage cube, we are going to receive, we paid the cost of connecting to the snake, so we're going to receive the reward of damaging it by 1. So since that lined up nice and neat, we are going to take this 1 red cube and place it next to our elk, denoting that we've done 1 damage to it so far. Now, if we go down to the bottom here, this is sort of the free key, I would say. This section down here is on every single card. Usually there's always something that connects down there, and it just kind of helps with the flow of the whole thing. So if you look down here, if you notice it says 2 times, and since we made the connection, it's 2 times a damage point, or one of the red cubes. So meaning that we get to place 2 damage onto the elk. So we're going to take 2 and place it next to it. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to pick this up and show you guys the thing down here. So if you notice, so this is us doing the damage to it, and this is one of the abilities that is attached to this card. This little symbol with the arrow pointing down means that when this card is played, do the effect. So what that means is, so in this case, when I play this card gains 2 charges. Now charges are simply 2 red cubes that you will place on the card. And if we look closer, this little skull symbol, oops, here, maybe I shouldn't put the cubes on right now. Let's see if I can get it to focus again. Let's do this whole thing. Sorry about this. I will hopefully find a better solution for it someday. There we go. So when we play this card, you gain 2 charges. This little skull symbol means when the enemy attacks you, you do a thing. So when the enemy attacks me, I can pay 1 charge. They heal 1 less, and I get to draw a card. So it has 2 cubes on it. When he attacks, I can activate this ability. Now, one thing that's important to note is sometimes you can get charges on multiple other cards, but this card can only spend the charges that are on the card. So let's say I had a second card over here. Like, let's just, for example, put this here, and I'll put 2 on it. I can't spend these charges to activate this cost. I have to spend only the charges that are on this specific card. So, all right, so let's move on to the next step. So we have our 2 charges placed here. We've already done 3 damage to this elk, which is really great. Now, the first card that you place on every turn that you're in combat is what they denote as free. You can, basically, there isn't a cost to, you actually don't have to make any of these attribute connections at the top of it. If, let's say, for example, that this red cube marker wasn't there at all. The first card we play is always free, meaning that we only have to pay attention to the bottom connection here. All right? So let's say, anyways, so just know that when you put the first card you play every turn, it's okay. Like, no matter what you put down, it's going to be all right. Like, you're not breaking any rules, basically. The second card we play, though, does have to make a connection with this little yellow symbol here. Let's see if I can focus it in here for you. Sorry about that. Let's do this thing again. Okay, see this yellow symbol? So for you to play a second card, or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth, you have to make a connection with one of these yellow card symbols. It's just the way it is. The first card you play is free, but the second, third, and fourth, this is the cost to play it. Okay? Now, if you notice on my other card, we also have this connection symbol. But this card, I actually can't play this card. Now, I'll show you why. So, if I place this card down, it makes a connection up here with an aggression stat, which generally would be fine. But if we look at my character tray, my character doesn't have any points in aggression. So any connection that is, in this case, any connection I make with the aggression attribute symbol isn't going to work. So what that means is this card, I can't actually play it as my second card because this connection is illegal or it doesn't work. So we're going to pick this card back up and we're going to replace it with this card. So if you notice, there is a yellow lightning symbol right there, and it actually connects with toughness, which I do have an attribute in. So we're going to take this card and place it down. Now let's go through the connection from top to bottom. So in the aggressive connection, there's this little green card symbol with a little white cross in it, or a plus sign. What that means is that if you make the connection and it's legal, you get to draw an extra card. But since it's lined up with my aggression, which I don't possess, I don't get to draw an extra card. Sorry, I'm going to scooch this over just a smidge. Now, the connection for toughness is the yellow lightning symbol, which we went over, which makes it legal for me to play this card. Next down here, this is anytime you see this blue symbol with kind of the infinity sign right here, this is a magic connection, and I'll get to a little bit more about that in just a moment. But as you notice, there is no cost on this card there's no cost on this card to make the connection, so just completely ignore this. And if we go down here, while this does connect, there isn't any reward on our support card. It's just completely blank, so nothing happens here. So in terms of what we get out of this, we really don't get anything out of it. We just get to continue the sequence. But if we look, we can see that there is an ability that will activate as soon as we play this card. And it says add 2 charges to any card in the sequence. And luckily we do have a card here that we can place charges on. So we get to take 2 more red cubes and place it on our card. So due to the Elk's ability of fast, I can only play 2 combat cards on my turn. So our turn is now over, and now it is shipped over to the Elk's turn. If we count up how much damage we have done to it so far, 1, 2, 3, and then we look at his combat tray. When we do 3 damage, he will do 2 damage back to us, and he will heal by 1 combat point. Now, so he's going to do 2 damage to us. So that we can't prevent at this point. So our character is going to lose. Well, also that's a good demonstration. Get to lose 2 health, and our energy went down as well because our energy can't be above our health. So, but it also says he is going to lose 1 of these combat pools. I don't want that to happen, but according to our crippling strike ability, I can pay 1 charge, and he won't heal 1, and I get to draw an extra card. Alright, we're set. We just did a full turn. Congratulations, everybody. We did it. Now, it's back to me. Technically at the end of the whole combat cycle, I get to draw 1 card. Actually, sorry, rewind. At the end of the whole combat cycle, we count our cards, and we have to discard down to 3. Luckily, I only have 2 cards, so I don't have to discard anything. Then we draw an extra card, and we begin the cycle all over again. So now we drew a couple new cards that we get to look through. So if we notice on my Gathering Thoughts card, there is a yellow lightning symbol that we can connect, unlike my Throw card that we drew, because it's an aggression connection, and my character doesn't have any aggression. So we're going to play this card actually first. Let's see. Yeah, that does actually work. So we're going to play our Throw card first, and we're going to now if you notice, there's a little difference between this card and this card in terms that the rewards and the cost are all on the same bar on the far left side of the card, but this card, it's actually split into 2 sections. That's because this is an ability that is going to be constantly revealed to us and we can constantly use. Now, when we line up this card, we're actually going to cover up the whole card so that now we can see what's lined up nice and easy. And that'll play into effect in just a little bit, and I'll show you. So, once again, let's go down the line of connections. So, we do have a connection here with aggression, but that doesn't matter because I don't have any. There's no connection here with courage, but there is a connection here with practicality, which I do have a point of attribute in. So, we do another damage to that. Then we go down. If we look here, there is actually a magic connection here. Now, when it comes to magic connections, if you want this reward, in this example, 1 damage cube, you actually have to pay 1 magic resource from your character board. Now, so we're going to do this for example. So we're going to pay that 1 magic. We're going to go down here, and you actually want to place it in this connection to notify that you've done the connection. This will play out later. So at this point, we get 1 point for the practicality connection, 1 point for the magic connection. And then if we go down here, you notice there's a 2 times and another red cube. So that means we get 2 more damage cubes on the elk. So if we look here, I've done 4 damage to it right now. Now, if you notice, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 damage on this guy, and we only need to do 6. So technically, we could end the encounter right now. The elk would die, and I would gain 2 food. But for more examples, we are going to keep going. So if you notice, there's also another, as we place action, when you place this action. So flip, it says when you place this card, flip over, flip over 1 weapon or shield you're using to gain 2 damage. This item is inactive until the end of combat. So, for example, let's say we had these 2 item cards. So, according to that card, I can take one of these and basically deactivate it for the turn, and I get to put 2 more damage onto the elk. Okay? Let's see. Also, in terms of items, let's say we have this item in our possession when we got into combat. It's a javelin. It says flip this card in combat to toss a dial. Grail gains 3 red cubes. Skull, discard this card. So you take one of those little metal or plastic dials we got that you place inside of the menhirs, flip it, and read the results of it. Now, just note, you can do this ability when it's your turn, like when you're placing cards. That's when you can activate this. You can't activate it while the elk is attacking us or at the end of the whole combat cycle. So, just to notify there. Okay, so like I said, we've done plenty of damage to the elk to actually win, but we're gonna keep going. So we placed 1 card so far. So the second card we place has to have, once again, that little yellow lightning symbol. So for this example, we are going. Let's see. So we can't actually play the hex card because there is no yellow lightning symbol on the far left. So we can play our Gathering Thoughts card. So we will have a connection with practicality here. We can, and let's say, for example, my character didn't have any practicality. We do have the option to connect it with magic by spending 1 magic from our pile of magic resources, and we can do that instant connection already. So we're going to place this down, making the connection with practicality. And let's see, a couple things I want to point out here. So if you notice, the connection for practicality, actually, there's 2 little snake heads on the cost. So meaning that you need to possess 2 practicality, 2 cubes of your practicality, for example, right here. I do possess 2 practicality, so I can make that connection. If I only had 1, even though I have 1 practicality, it wouldn't work for that connection because it requires 2. So, luckily we do have that, so it works out just fine. Now, if you notice down here also, at the very bottom here, there is this red X on the free slot on the bottom row. Now, let's say, for example, let's ignore that card just for now, and we had this card there. The X nullifies the reward. So if I ended up placing this hex card, I would not receive 1 damage cube because there's an X in this connection right there. Okay, so let's reorganize here. Okay, the other thing we get. So if you look down here, there is a little time token symbol. So what that means is we're going to take one of these gray time counters, place it on the card, and at the very beginning of the next combat cycle, I can take this off, and we get the reward at the bottom, which is my opponent does lose. See, there we go. My opponent does heal 1 damage cube, but I do get to draw 2 cards. So let's place this down here. We're going to place our little cube, our little time token here, and just for example, even though the elk is technically dead, we are going to end our turn and let him attack us. Let's just assume that we're going to take 2 damage, and he's going to heal 1. I'm going to prevent that heal by discarding 1 charge from my Crippling Strike card, and my character would then lose 2 health. Now, of note, there are also items that can help you prevent damage. So, for example, this is a improvised armor, and at the very bottom, when the opponent attacks, that's what that little skull symbol means, I prevent 1 damage. Note that it can't be reduced to 0. So if the elk only did 1 damage to me, this armor wouldn't actually do anything. I would still receive the 1 damage. So let's just apply that just to keep it accurate. I technically wouldn't have lost 2 health. I would have only lost 1, so we're going to raise our health back up to 4. Okay, great. So at the start of my turn, we do get to remove this counter. My opponent does get to heal 1. And note, down here, I can't actually activate this because the opponent isn't attacking me. This is just at the very beginning of the step. So he does get to heal 1. And I gotta remember to draw my card. Okay, now this is the last demonstration we're going to go through real quick. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Hold on, I think I drew the wrong one. Okay. Actually, here, we're just going to go through a couple other important things to note on these cards. So, this is something you'll see pretty often. So, when this card is placed, gain 1 damage cube for each magic connection. Oops, excuse me. So anyways, it says, come on, focus for me, buddy. Anyways, it says, okay, there. Gain 1 damage for each magic connection when fighting a purple counter. So we're fighting a green encounter, so this actually wouldn't apply at all. But let's just imagine that it is a purple encounter. So when we place this, we gain 1 damage for each magic connection we've made. So if you noticed, we have made 1 damage magic connection here. We've also made 1 here, but we didn't actually pay for this connection to actually work. So while these do connect, we didn't pay the price for the connection to actually be there. So this wouldn't count. Same with the, that is the connection that does count. So when we place this card, we do get to put 1 damage on our opponent according to this card. Okay, so we're going to ignore this card though for now. The next thing I want to show you guys is, this is where the kind of the covering up of cards can come and kind of bite you in the butt. So once again, we do have instant connection with our practicality. Now that doesn't really matter because it's our first card that we're going to be playing, so I don't have to worry about that, but it's just good to note. But if you look, it says when the enemy attacks, prevent 2 damage, place a time marker on this, draw 1 card. Okay, that seems pretty good, so we're going to play this card down. We're going to take a time marker and place it right here. Now, the problem with this is, though, let's say I wanted to play this card. We're going to ignore this effect right now. We're just going to matter about placing it down. So if I take this card, which is legal because I do have the yellow lightning symbol on practicality, if I cover up this card, the abilities won't go off. So if I place this card here, I remove the time token. I don't get to draw the card. And when the enemy attacks, I don't prevent 2 of it because I've now covered it up completely in the sequence. Okay? So if you cover up a card and it has abilities that occur when the enemy attacks or when you remove a time token, you are going to be nullifying them. So sometimes it's good to place only 1 card down at a time so that you can get certain abilities or make sure that this card is the last in your sequence. Okay? So I think that's pretty dang good. I can't really think of anything else that I need to cover. Let me just do a quick little run through of some combat cards just to check. Let's see. Here, I guess this is a symbol we do that'd be good to go over. Okay. So this symbol right here, let me see if I can make sure I can get it to focus on for you. Okay, that little symbol in the bottom right, it looks like a red card being split in half. If you ever see that symbol, it means that you need to discard the last card in your sequence. Okay? Now, that can be good for you, or that can be very bad for you. There are some cards out there that will say, if this card is discarded, you'll lose 3 health, or the enemy will heal by 4, or something like that. So just know that means that you have to discard the last card in your sequence. And I think there's an example of this in the diplomacy encounter that we're going to do. So, all right, guys, that is a combat encounter. Hopefully, I hope that really helped you guys out. One thing I do want to note This really involves when you're in a party of people. When the card says loot on it, that means that you get a total of 2 food, and you have to split it out amongst your party. You don't have to split it, but you have to make a decision of who gets the food. So, for example, if you had 3 people fighting this encounter together, not everyone would get 2 food. You would get 2 food total, and you have to spread it out. Now, if this card said reward 2 food, then everybody would get 2 food. So that's the difference between it. Loot is, that's all you get. You have to split it up. Reward, everyone gets this reward. Okay? Okay, and then another note when it comes to combat. So you can enter combat with multiple people in your party. As long as you're both on the same location together, you can fight this encounter together. Now, the way that works is player A would put down his cards. The enemy would then attack player A, I believe. I'll have to double check that, actually, now that I think about it. I'm not sure how that works. I'm pretty sure the elk would attack player A, and then player B would put down his cards, and then the elk would attack player B. Don't quote me on that. I apologize. This is kind of embarrassing. This is something, if I'm doing a rules thing, I should probably know how that works. But we're not all perfect. Also note that I have only played as a solo player, so as fighting together is something that I haven't actually done yet. So, apologies for that. But we're going to move on. And I'm planning on making probably a last video to kind of put out all the rules that maybe I missed, or if I need to make a correction, things like that. So anyways, that's combat. I think that's pretty much covered everything in combat that I really wanted to go over with you guys. So why don't we pack this all up, and we are going to do a diplomatic encounter. So I'm going to go through a couple examples of diplomatic encounters that you can run into when drawing them. Note, these are all blue cards. Diplomatic encounters are all blue. So you can get cards like this that'll say something like, calm before the storm, nothing happens. This is just a nice little break. That's just like, hey, we know diplomacy's tough. It's cool. So you can draw a card like that. There's also these cards. This is more like an event, I would say. And it'll say, like, if you read, like, for example, if you read the flavor text here, it says, alleyways twist towards the sky, houses bend at impossible angles, weirdness is here. And with the card being titled Breath of the Weirdness. So this is kind of an event that happens. The weirdness is that kind of evil magic, that evil mist that's surrounding Avalon that the menhirs are holding it back. You then get 2 different choices here. 1, you can navigate the anomaly, roll a die, and add your spirituality. If the result is 4 or lower, fail the encounter. Avoid unnecessary tension, roll a die, and add your caution. If the result is lower than 3, fail the encounter. So what this means is that you're going to start here. You're going to do this event. You're going to navigate the anomaly, and if you pass this, you then move on to the second one, which is avoid unnecessary attention. And if you pass this, you then get the reward of 2 magic. If you fail, you have to lose 2 energy and resolve a purple encounter. Okay? So just remember, this isn't an or. There is no or written here, so you have to do the first one and then the second one. Okay? The third... So, these are the cards. These are the encounters. This is what you're going to see very often, the ones that you're going to have to fight through in order to survive. There's a lot of stuff on this card, but the one thing I want us to focus on is this one. It says or on this card, but it doesn't say or on this one. So what that means is when it comes to this card, let's see if I can get it to focus for you. Okay. When it comes to this one, sorry. There we go. If you notice here, there is an or here. What that means is that you have to choose between either reveal forgery or trick the trickster. Now, that's going to change a lot of things. It's going to change. Sorry, my finger's so dirty, but it's going to change how you win the diplomatic encounter, and it's also going to change what the opponent does when he attacks. Okay. Now, when it comes to this card, which doesn't have an or, you have to first resolve this top bar, and then when that's done, then you have to resolve this bottom one. Now, this is going to be our example, and hopefully we'll be able to get through it. I've heard this one's kind of tough, but I think we can pull this off, okay? So this is the encounter we're going to do. Now, before we move on, I am gonna do an example real quick. I'm gonna show you guys something I forgot. So back to combat real quick. So the other option you have is you can simply run away from any encounter, because sometimes you're either low on health or you run into an enemy that you're like, holy crap, I can't handle that. And the way you do that is you have to spend 1 energy, and you have to resolve the opportunity attack. So, for example, this card, let's see if I can get it to focus here. The opportunity attack is 1 damage, and it's unavoidable. So, let's say you run across this guy, and you're like, holy crap, I can't do this, I won't be able to defeat him. You spend 1 energy, and you will take 1 damage. And then the encounter is over, you take this card, you put it on the bottom of the encounter deck, and you're done. Now, that seems like a pretty low cost to me most of the time. Lots of times, I think it's just because the way you get magic a lot is by fighting purple encounters, and just, I don't know, just the reward you get for fighting these really actually helps you out a lot just by gathering resources. And plus, it's the fun part of the game, so I try not to run too often, but you can run as long as you do that. Pay 1 energy and the opportunity cost. So, why don't we get back to our diplomacy encounter? Okay, the way diplomacy works is we are going to take 1 little red cube, and we are going to place it on the gray square of the affinity track. If we get our affinity cube all the way to the top, right here, and we end our turn, we win the encounter. If it goes all the way down to the bottom and the turn ends, we lose the encounter. If we win, we get, we get the reward of losing 1 terror and gaining 1 rep and 1 experience. If we fail, if it gets to the red one and the turn ends, we gain 2 terror and lose 1 rep. Okay, so this is pretty similar to how combat works in terms of the connections that we have to make, but we just have to keep track of the affinity track just a little bit better. Okay, so actually we're going to scooch this over here because there's a chance this might take a little bit. So just like in combat, we draw 3 cards. You look at them. If you don't like them, you then can discard them, put them away, and you can draw 2 cards. If you don't like those, put them away, draw 1 card. Okay? So, I am doing this one on the fly. The combat one was a little scripted. This one's going to be more on the fly. So, just bear with me if you don't mind as I figure all of this out. So, let's see. I think we're going to play... Let's see. I think we're going to play... We're going to play Misdirection here. So, now, in terms of what my character is able to do, she has 2 sympathy, 1 caution, but 0 spirituality. So we can't make any connections with spirituality, but we can make connections with the top 2. So, in this example, I did make a connection at the top, and that's just an instant action, but the first card you play is free, so I'm not too stressed about. So none of this really does matter. So nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, but there is a 1 times with an arrow pointing up. What that means is we get to take this red cube and scooch it up. There's also an ability here. If this card is discarded, that's what the little red, the red card's been split in half. We go down the affinity track by 1, and we lose 1 reputation. Okay, but we get to cover that card up by playing another card. So we are going to play. Let's see, what do we want to play? I had to make a magic connection. I think we're going to play. We're going to play. So we're going to play Empathize. So there. Oh, let's see. I guess that doesn't work. Sorry, I thought I had this lined up nice and neat, but I guess I don't. So I have a pretty bad hand, actually, to be honest. But here, how about we do this? So we're going to play Risky Ploy. Now keep in mind, we are covering up the, if this card is discarded, go down the affinity track and loser and rep. So that's covered up for now, so we don't have to stress about it. If we lose this card and it's revealed, the ability is then active again. Okay? So we're going to play Risky Ploy. There's no connections here, but we can make a connection by paying 1 magic and making that connection. And this says if this card is discarded, we do lose. It does go down by 3 affinity, which is really bad, but I also get to draw 1 extra card during my draw step. Okay? So, I don't really want to play this card, because if I play this card, I don't get the connection at the top for sympathy, and I also lose, because of this red X, I don't get to go up the affinity track at all. So I think we're just going to end our turn. Now, we look towards to our enemy. Let's see, I'm on the first green affinity track, and we're on Act 1, which is Comfort. Let's see if I can get it to focus. But what it says is I go down 1 on the affinity track, and I gain 1 terror. Okay? So we're going to put this guy back down there. I do go down to the gray again, and I gain 1 terror. I'm going to move that up on the board. At the end of the turn, I get to draw 1 card normally, but because of my ability, I get to draw 2 cards now. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Okay, cool. So we're going to play this guy. So this is Eye for Detail. There is only 1 connection here, and see this little. I think it's a Celtic knot. You people can highly correct me if I'm wrong, but let's see. Sorry. Okay, this little Celtic knot here is going to line up with a caution connection that is on Risky Ploy right here. Now, when you place this, you then look to the encounter card under this symbol. Now, during Act 1, whenever we make a connection with spirituality, let's see, come on. Sorry about this. There we go. Whenever we make a connection with spirituality, we go up by 2. So the connection we just made with our caution actually isn't going to do anything. But it does get us this ×2 down here, and it also gives me links over there. So now I'm going to play, let's see, actually I can't play anything. Let's see. This isn't going very well, to be honest, but anyways, it's just to teach you guys. So I don't have any instant ways to instantly play a card for my second card, so we just have to end the turn, but there is a time marker here. We're going to place this down, and when that's removed, I get to draw an extra card. So my turn is over. We look back to what happens when the enemy attacks. I do lose one on the affinity track, so we're down to the red, which isn't good, and I gain 1 terror. I'm going to put that up on my character. So at the end of the turn, I do get to draw. I get to draw one standard card. What is that? Sorry, 1 standard card. I get 1 extra card for my Risky Ploy, and I'm going to remove the time counter, and I get to draw another card here. So I got a fistful of cards. Let me see what I can pull off here. We don't want to do that. Let's see. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to get a lot of cards here. So we're going to play Gather Clues. While there is a Celtic knot connection here, once again it's with caution, which according to the encounter card isn't going to do us any good. But down here, the little green symbol means I get to draw a card, and it's connected to a ×2, so I get to draw 2 cards. Let's see. Okie dokie. I need to get that affinity track up there pretty quick, or I'm going to be in trouble. So let's look around. I'm actually. Let's see. Well, okay. Also, this card says I get to gain 1 charge, remove all charges, plus 1 up for each removed charge. So I can just whenever on my turn I can remove all the charges on here, and the affinity track will go up. So to save myself from losing, I'm going to remove this cube and put the track up by 1. Okay. So let's see. I can't make any connections there. So with this whole fistful of cards, I actually can't make any connections. There's not enough of those little yellow lightning symbols, and I kind of put myself in a bad position because, look, I only have a caution connection and the free symbol down here, which isn't very helpful to me right now. So I actually have to end my turn, and I have to discard a couple cards. So I think we're going to discard you. We're going to discard... It's kind of cool, actually. We're going to discard... This might go a little longer than I expected, so I might end up cutting it short just to teach you guys how this works, but go. And I think we're just going to discard... No. Okay. So my turn is over. We go back to this guy. The affinity track goes down by 1. I gain 1 terror. And now it's my turn. So I'm going to draw... I'm going to draw 1 card from this and 1 standard card. Okay, let's see what I can pull off here. So we're going to play Bizarre Method. We do have a connection here with caution, but it's not going to do much due to it not having an effect because of our encounter. But I do get to toss a die. But it does give us a lot of openings on this side, which is a really good thing. It's going to help us actually be able to pump this up a little bit more. So it does say I have to toss the dial. If I lose 1 rep. If it's Grail, nothing happens. We're just going to pass over that for now. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to play another fast card. Or can I make... Yeah, because I can do... Ooh, here we go. So we're going to play Support. We do have the lightning connection here, so it makes it a legal target. We do get to draw a card because there's a connection with our caution. We can put the affinity track up here if I want to pay a magic, which I think I will. I also have infinite magic for this example. So the affinity track goes up by 1. There's nothing here, so nothing happens here. But the place down ability says place 2 charges on a chosen card in the sequence. I'm going to take 2 of those charges. I'm going to place it on my gather clues. I'm then going to remove all my clues, or all my charges, to pump up my affinity track by 2. We're almost there. We only need 2 more. So we need another lightning. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So this card, Captivating Song, it does have the Celtic Knot symbol on the sympathy track, which is what I need in order to win this encounter. And it also has the lightning symbol here, which connects... Oh, wait, no, I can't. Okay, so I can't actually play this card now that I think about it. So, well, it does have a connection here and here. Since it's the second card in the sequence, I need a yellow lightning symbol, right? Well, the yellow lightning symbol is actually lined up with my spirituality, which my character doesn't actually possess. So I can't actually play that card. Let me see if I can pull something off a little quickly. Okay, here. Okay, we're gonna play Masterful Acting. Man, it's getting rough. Jeez. Okay, guys, sorry about this. I really thought this would go a little smoother than this. This is hard for some reason for my character. It's just not lining up right. Anyways, so it was a terrible example. You guys can laugh at me later, but so basically this. We're going to get once we play enough cards, the affinity track would get up to this. The top act would get resolved. Then we reset for the second act, which is down here. We would scooch this down back to the gray. And now we have quite different set of rules we got to follow. Instead of sympathy giving us pluses on the affinity track, now caution and spirituality are each going to give us 1 point up the affinity track. Okay? And also what the enemy does when they attack changes. We lose energy now, and we have to discard the last card in our sequence in order to, which is what happens when they attack us. Okay? So, we would get our second, once we fight our way through this, we go all the way to the top and we win, and we get the reward. Simple as that. Now, there's a couple little small rules that we have to take into account. I'm going to double check it real quick just to make sure I get it right. So, in terms of just the general rule is okay, so in your diplomacy deck, let's say the encounter goes way too long. Like this one probably would have went too long. And if I go to reach to draw a card and then there's no cards left for me to draw, we instantly lose the encounter. And in combat, we would run away and have to pay the opportunity cost. Okay? But in terms of the diplomatic counter, we have to go with the failure right down there. The other thing that we have to remember is that if, let's see, if there's an ability that says you have to discard a card from your hand, and there's no cards in your hand, like your hand's completely empty, you actually end up taking, you then take the top card of your diplomacy deck and you discard it there, which is going to increase the chances that you're going to run out of cards quicker, meaning that you're going to fail the encounter. Okay, I think that's mainly what it is. Let's see. Gotcha. The other thing to note is that, let's say you're playing this. Let's say I'm doing this encounter, and as you notice, my terror was going up pretty frequently. If my terror goes above my HP marker, or no, sorry. Once my terror gets into the red here, I then am going insane. I receive the going insane card, which will kind of line up the what's going to happen to you because you're going insane. If that happens, and you're in an encounter, you immediately fail the encounter. If you're in combat and you get down to the you are dying section, combat ends, you have to leave. Okay? And same with diplomatic. Sometimes a diplomatic encounter can actually damage you as well. If you get the you are dying card or the you are going insane card, the diplomatic encounter ends. Okay? Let's see. I feel like there was one more thing. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this applies to both your combat and diplomacy encounters. If your terror is, if your terror is above your HP marker, like so, you are now in a panic. And what that means is that the first card that you play, like I say, let me clean this up just a smidge real quick. Okay. The first card you play, sorry. Okay, if you're in a panic, if your terror is above your HP marker, the first card you play has to come from the top of your deck. So you just pick it up and play it. And no matter what it is, it's going to connect because that's your free card for the turn. So that's a huge disadvantage. Try to avoid it. If you get in that situation, it's probably good just to run or flee. Also keep in mind, diplomatic encounters, you can fail them, and you just simply take the failure. You simply take the failure outcome. Sorry, I feel lame for having to double check that, but I want to make sure I got it right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so a party may always escape a diplomatic encounter. Simply apply the penalty listed in the failure section of the card to each party member. If the card now some diplomatic encounters do have an avoid. Let's see if I can find one real quick. Where's the blue? There we go. Okay. So, some diplomatic encounters have this ability called avoid. So avoid is you simply pay the cost that's listed, and in this case you move to a connected location, meaning you don't get to enter the city that you're planning on entering. Okay, I think that actually covers pretty much everything you need to know about diplomatic and combat encounters. Keep in mind that you can only avoid an encounter before you start it. So that avoid cost that I showed you, you can't be in the middle of it. You can't start the diplomatic encounter and then be like, oh, I actually don't want to go through this and pay the avoid cost. In that case, if you've already started it, you then have to go with the failure cost. Okay? All right, great, guys. I think that's everything that we're going to everything you guys need to know about combat and diplomatic encounters. Let me know. Sorry if this was a bit of a mess. Like pretty much all my other videos, this is supposed to be kind of a quick and dirty. I just open it up and I kind of go at it. Because I know there's going to be a more professional one showing up sometime in January, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. But for now, I hope this will help you guys out for now, getting the game open and starting to play as soon as possible. Thank you guys for joining me. Hope this helps out. I'll probably be posting one more video to kind of clean up a few clarifications, answering some frequently asked questions, or just, maybe the little nitty-gritty rules that I need to cover. So, thank you guys for joining me. Hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you. Bye.